Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! In the quiet solitude of his studio, the machine purred, a gentle melody in the dimly lit room. Under the warm glow of the lamp, John's hands danced gracefully, deftly maneuvering the delicate silk through the hungry metal teeth. Each stitch was placed with meticulous care, as if it were a piece of art coming to life. He was creating magic, one thread at a time. John, with an age-defying passion, has long been enchanted by the realm of fashion, a world where fabric and imagination intertwine. His youthful eyes once gazed upon the runways, dreaming of the day his designs would grace them. Time had been his ally, and at 28, he possessed an artisan's skills, ready to etch his name in the industry. Nearly midnight. He should call it a night, but his mind was still racing with ideas. On impulse, he opened his laptop and began browsing online boutiques. That's when he saw it. A simple black dress that caught his eye. The cut was elegant, the draping masterful. John found himself clicking Add to Cart before he'd even fully processed what he was doing.
"It's just to study the construction,"
he murmured, as if someone might overhear.
"Research, that's all."
But even as the words left his lips, John knew there was more to it than that. A tiny spark of excitement flickered in his chest as he completed the purchase. The dress arrived 3 days later. John's hands trembled slightly as he opened the package, running his fingers over the smooth fabric. He held it up, admiring the craftsmanship. Without quite meaning to, he found himself stepping in front of the full-length mirror. Heart pounding, John slipped the dress over his head. The fabric settled against his skin, cool and light. He smoothed it down, adjusting the fit. When he finally looked up, his breath caught in his throat. The person staring back at him from the mirror was different, softer, more graceful somehow. John turned, watching the way the dress moved with him. For the first time in his life, he felt truly seen. "Oh," he whispered, a mix of wonder and realization in his voice.
"Oh, I see now."
That night marked a turning point. In the weeks that followed, John, who soon began thinking of herself as Daphne, threw herself into designing with renewed passion. But now, her creations took on a different form. Flowing skirts, delicate blouses, dresses that celebrated curves and softness. Daphne's fingers flew across her sketchpad, bringing designs to life with each stroke of her pencil. She worked tirelessly, pouring her heart and newfound sense of self into every piece. As her wardrobe evolved, so did her appearance. Daphne experimented with makeup, learning through trial and error. She grew out her blonde hair, reveling in the way it framed her face in soft waves. One sunny afternoon, Daphne stood before her mirror, hardly recognizing the person reflected back. Gone was the hesitant, unsure John. In his place stood a confident woman with sparkling eyes and a radiant smile. Smoothing down her blue sundress, one of her own creations, Daphne made a decision. It was time to share her journey with the world. With trembling fingers, she created a blog. Threads of Transformation, she titled it. In her first post, Daphne poured out her story, the years of feeling out of place, the moment of revelation with the little black dress, and the joy of finally embracing her true self. She uploaded photos of her designs, each one a testament to her growth not just as a designer, but as a person. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Comments flooded in, filled with support and admiration. "Your designs are stunning! Thank you for sharing your story. You've given me the courage to start my own journey. I've never seen fashion that speaks to me like this before. Please keep creating." Daphne's heart swelled with each message. She'd hoped to inspire others, but she hadn't anticipated how much their words would inspire her in return. Energized by the positive response, Daphne threw herself into her work with renewed vigor. She sketched new designs late into the night, experimenting with fabrics and silhouettes. Each piece was a celebration of femininity, designed to make the wearer feel beautiful and empowered. As her blog gained traction, Daphne began receiving requests for custom designs. She started small, creating pieces for friends and followers. Word spread quickly, and soon she found herself with a growing clientele. One evening, as Daphne was putting the finishing touches on an emerald green cocktail dress, her phone buzzed with a notification. She glanced at the screen and gasped. A major fashion magazine wanted to feature her in an upcoming issue. The day of the photo shoot arrived, bringing with it a whirlwind of activity. Daphne arrived at the studio, her arms laden with garment bags containing her latest creations. She was greeted by a team of stylists, makeup artists, and photographers, all buzzing with excitement. "Daphne, we're so thrilled to have you here!" The art director gushed, shaking her hand warmly. "Your designs are absolutely revolutionary. We can't wait to showcase them." As the makeup artist worked her magic, Daphne caught sight of herself in the mirror. Her blonde hair had been styled into elegant waves, and her eyes sparkled with a confidence she'd never known before. She barely recognized the woman staring back at her, and yet she'd never felt more like herself. The photo shoot was a blur of flashing lights, quick changes, and exhilarating poses. Daphne modeled her own designs, feeling a surge of pride with each click of the camera. As she moved from outfit to outfit, she marveled at how far she'd come. "That's a wrap!" the photographer called out finally. "Daphne, you were absolutely stunning. These photos are going to be incredible." Daphne changed back into her own clothes, a flowing white maxi dress of her own design, and gathered her things. As she was preparing to leave, the magazine's editor approached her. "Daphne, I just wanted to say how impressed we all are," she said warmly. "Your story, your designs, they're going to resonate with so many people. Have you ever considered showcasing your work at Fashion Week?" Daphne's eyes widened. "Fashion Week? I never thought that would be possible." The editor smiled. "Well, start thinking about it. I have a feeling we'll be seeing a lot more of you in the future." As Daphne left the studio, her mind was reeling. Fashion Week had always been a distant dream, something she'd barely allowed herself to hope for. Now, it seemed within reach. Over the next few months, Daphne worked tirelessly to prepare a collection worthy of Fashion Week. She poured every ounce of her creativity and newfound confidence into each piece. Her designs celebrated diversity and self-expression, with flowing lines and bold colors that made a statement on and off the runway. The night before her debut, Daphne could hardly sleep. She tossed and turned, her mind racing with a mixture of excitement and nerves. When dawn finally broke, she rose and began her preparations with trembling hands. She chose a striking red gown for herself, one that she'd labored over for weeks. As she slipped it on, Daphne felt a sense of calm wash over her. This was her moment, the culmination of everything she'd been working towards. The backstage area was a chaotic whirlwind of activity. Models rushed back and forth, stylists made last-minute adjustments, and the air thrummed with nervous energy. Daphne moved through it all in a daze, making sure each outfit was perfect. 5 minutes to showtime! A stagehand called out. Daphne took a deep breath, smoothing down her gown. She gathered her models around her, looking into each of their faces. Remember, she said softly, these designs are about more than just fashion. They're about embracing who you are, celebrating your unique beauty. When you walk out there, I want you to feel powerful, confident, and absolutely gorgeous. Can you do that for me? The models nodded, their eyes shining with determination. Daphne smiled, feeling a surge of affection for each of them. The music started, a pulsing beat that seemed to match Daphne's racing heart. One by one, her models strode out onto the runway, showcasing her designs with grace and confidence. Daphne watched from backstage, her breath catching in her throat as she saw her creations come to life under the bright lights. Each piece told a story, her story, and the story of anyone who had ever felt out of place in their own skin. As the last model made her way back, it was Daphne's turn. She took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. This was it. The moment she'd been working towards for so long. She stepped out onto the runway, the lights momentarily blinding her. As her eyes adjusted, she saw the crowd, fashion icons, journalists, and industry leaders, all watching her with rapt attention. Daphne began to walk, feeling the soft swish of her gown around her legs. With each step, she felt stronger, more confident. This was where she belonged. As she reached the end of the runway, Daphne paused, allowing the photographers to capture her image. She smiled, radiating joy and pride. In that moment, she wasn't just a designer showcasing her work. She was a woman fully embracing her true self, inspiring others to do the same. The applause was thunderous as Daphne made her way back down the runway, her models falling in behind her. As they reached the end, confetti rained down, glittering under the lights. Backstage was a flurry of congratulations and excited chatter. Daphne hugged her models, thanking each of them for bringing her vision to life. As she was changing out of her gown, a familiar face appeared. Daphne! That was absolutely magnificent! It was the editor from the magazine, her eyes shining with excitement. I knew you were talented, but this was something truly special. Daphne smiled, feeling a mix of exhaustion and elation. Thank you so much. I still can't quite believe it's real. Oh, it's real, all right, the editor laughed. And this is just the beginning. The fashion world is buzzing about you, Daphne. You're going to be a household name before you know it. As the excitement of the show began to die down, Daphne found a quiet moment to herself. She pulled out her phone, opening her blog. With fingers that still trembled slightly, she began to type. Dear friends, tonight, I achieved a dream I never thought possible. I showcased my designs at Fashion Week, standing proudly as both a designer and a model. As I walked down that runway, I carried with me the strength and support of every person who has followed my journey. This collection is more than just clothes. It's a celebration of transformation, of embracing our true selves, of the beauty that comes from authenticity. To everyone out there who has ever felt out of place, who has struggled to recognize themselves in the mirror, this is for you. Our journeys may not be easy, but they are beautiful. They are worthy, and they deserve to be celebrated. Thank you for being a part of my story. Here's to writing many more chapters together. With love and gratitude, Daphne. She hit post and let out a contented sigh. As she gathered her things to leave, Daphne caught sight of herself in a mirror. The woman who looked back at her was strong, confident, and radiant with joy, from a small apartment and a little black dress to the runways of Fashion Week. It had been quite a journey, but Daphne knew that in many ways, it was only the beginning. She had found her voice, her passion, and her true self, and she was ready to use all of it to make the world a little more beautiful, one design at a time. As she stepped out into the cool night air, Daphne felt a sense of peace wash over her. The future stretched out before her, full of possibilities. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them as her authentic self, proud, strong, and unapologetically Daphne. The story of John turned Daphne had touched countless lives, inspiring others to embrace their own truths. And as she hailed a taxi, ready to head home and start sketching her next collection, Daphne knew that her greatest designs and her greatest transformations were still to come. The taxi ride home was a blur of city lights and reflective silence. Daphne's mind was still reeling from the events of the evening, replaying every moment on a continuous loop. The thunderous applause, the flash of cameras, the feeling of utter belonging as she strode down that runway. It all seemed like a dream. As the taxi pulled up to her apartment building, Daphne paid the driver and stepped out into the quiet street. The cool night air was a stark contrast to the heat and excitement of the show. She took a deep breath, letting it ground her in the present moment. Inside her apartment, Daphne kicked off her heels and padded barefoot to her workspace. Despite the late hour and her exhaustion, her fingers itched to sketch. The energy of the show had ignited a spark of creativity that she was eager to capture before it faded. She settled at her desk, pulling out her favorite sketch pad and pencils. As she began to draw, the lines flowed effortlessly, bringing to life designs that were bolder and more innovative than anything she'd created before. Each stroke of her pencil felt like a continuation of her runway walk, confident, purposeful, and full of joy. Hours passed unnoticed as Daphne lost herself in her work. It wasn't until the first rays of dawn began to peek through her window that she finally set down her pencil. She leaned back, stretching her stiff muscles, and surveyed the fruits of her late-night creative burst. The pages of her sketchpad were filled with designs that took her breath away. Flowing gowns that seemed to defy gravity, structured pieces that celebrated every curve and angle of the human form, and delicate, ethereal creations that looked as if they'd been spun from starlight. Each design was a testament to her growth, not just as a designer, but as a person fully embracing her identity. As Daphne finally crawled into bed, her mind was already racing with plans for her next collection. But more than that, she was filled with a sense of purpose. Her journey had the power to inspire others, to show them that it was never too late to become who you were always meant to be. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Daphne's inbox was flooded with interview requests, collaboration offers, and messages from fans around the world. Her blog traffic had skyrocketed, with thousands of new followers eager to hear more about her story and her designs. One particularly busy afternoon, as Daphne was juggling phone calls and emails, her assistant poked her head into the office. "Daphne, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but I think you'll want to meet her." Curious, Daphne followed her assistant to the reception area. Standing there, looking nervous but determined, was a young woman with bright blue hair. "Hi," the woman said, her voice trembling slightly. "My name is Emma. I hope you don't mind me dropping in like this. I needed to thank you in person." Daphne smiled warmly, instantly putting Emma at ease. It's wonderful to meet you, Emma. Why don't we go to my office and chat? Once they were seated, Emma took a deep breath. Your story, it changed my life. I've always felt different, but I never had the words to explain it. When I read about your journey, it was like everything finally clicked into place. I realized that I'm transgender too. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes as she continued. I was so scared, but seeing how you've embraced your true self, it gave me the courage to start my own journey. I just wanted you to know what an impact you've had. Daphne felt her own eyes filling with tears. She reached out, clasping Emma's hand in her own. Thank you for sharing that with me, Emma. Your courage is inspiring. Remember, this journey is yours. Take it at your own pace, and know that you have a whole community supporting you. They talked for over an hour, Daphne offering advice and encouragement. As Emma was leaving, Daphne had an idea. Emma, would you be interested in modeling for my next collection? I think you'd be perfect. Emma's face lit up with joy. Are you serious? I'd be honored. As she watched Emma leave, practically floating with excitement, Daphne felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was why she did what she did, not just for the clothes or the acclaim, but for moments like this, the chance to help others find and embrace their true selves. Inspired by her meeting with Emma, Daphne threw herself into her next project with renewed vigor. She began designing a collection specifically aimed at the transgender community, creating pieces that were both beautiful and practical for those in various stages of transition. She reached out to transgender models, makeup artists, and stylists, determined to make the entire process as inclusive and empowering as possible. The response was overwhelming, with people from all over the country eager to be a part of the groundbreaking project. As the collection came together, Daphne knew she wanted to present it in a unique way. A traditional runway show didn't feel right for this deeply personal project. After much consideration, she decided on an intimate gallery showing, where each piece could be displayed alongside the story of the person who inspired it. The night of the showing arrived, and Daphne felt a nervous excitement unlike anything she'd experienced before. This wasn't just about fashion, it was about visibility, acceptance, and celebration of the transgender community. She'd chosen a stunning blue gown for the occasion, its color reminiscent of the vast open sky, full of possibilities. As she made her final preparations, Daphne caught sight of herself in the mirror. The woman who looked back at her was a far cry from the hesitant, conflicted person she'd been just a year ago. She stood tall, radiating confidence and purpose. The gallery was soon filled with a diverse crowd, fashion industry insiders, LGBTQ+ advocates, and members of the transgender community. As Daphne made her way through the room, she was overwhelmed by the atmosphere of joy and acceptance. Each display featured a beautifully crafted garment, alongside a photograph and story of the person who inspired it. Guests moved from piece to piece, many wiping away tears as they read the powerful narratives of struggle, self-discovery, and triumph. Emma's display was particularly moving. The vibrant blue dress Daphne had designed for her perfectly complemented her hair, and the joy in Emma's eyes as she posed in the photograph was palpable. The accompanying story spoke of fear turned to hope, and the power of seeing oneself represented in the world of fashion. As the evening wore on, Daphne found herself surrounded by a group of young transgender individuals, all eager to share their stories and express their gratitude. "Your designs make me feel seen," one person said, their eyes shining. "For the first time, I can imagine myself wearing something beautiful without feeling out of place." Another added, Seeing someone like you succeed in the fashion world, it gives me hope for my own dreams." Daphne listened to each person, her heart swelling with every word. This, she realized, was her true calling. Not just designing clothes, but using her platform to uplift and empower others. As the night drew to a close, Daphne took center stage to address the crowd. Looking out at the sea of faces, some familiar, many new, all supportive, she felt a surge of emotion. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she began, her voice steady despite the tears threatening to spill over. "This collection is more than just fabric and thread. It's a celebration of authenticity, of the courage it takes to be true to oneself in a world that doesn't always make it easy." She paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "To every person who has ever felt out of place, who has struggled to recognize themselves in the mirror, this is for you. Your journey is valid, your identity is valid, and you deserve to feel beautiful, confident, and celebrated." The room erupted in applause, many guests openly weeping. As Daphne stepped down, she was engulfed in a sea of hugs, handshakes, and words of gratitude. Later that night, as Daphne finally returned home, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She'd started this journey seeking to understand herself, to find her place in the world. Along the way, she'd discovered not just her true identity, but her true purpose. Sitting at her desk, Daphne opened her laptop to update her blog. Her fingers hovered over the keys for a moment before she began to type. "Dear friends, tonight, I was reminded of the incredible power of authenticity. In sharing our stories, in embracing our true selves, we create ripples of change that reach far beyond ourselves. To every person who has followed my journey, who has shared their own story with me, who has found the courage to take that first step towards living as their authentic self, thank you. You inspire me every day to keep pushing boundaries, to keep creating, to keep advocating for a world where everyone can feel beautiful in their own skin. This is just the beginning. Together, we're redefining beauty, challenging norms, and creating a fashion industry that celebrates every identity. The road ahead may not always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Here's to authenticity, to courage, and to the beautiful diversity of the human experience. May we always strive to lift each other up and celebrate the unique beauty in every individual. With love and gratitude, Daphne." As she hit post, Daphne felt a sense of peace wash over her. From a little black dress to a groundbreaking fashion collection, her journey had been one of constant growth and self-discovery, and she knew, with absolute certainty, that the best was yet to come. Daphne closed her laptop and moved to her workspace, pulling out her sketchpad. As the first light of dawn began to creep through her window, she put pencil to paper, ready to bring her next vision to life. In that quiet moment, surrounded by the tools of her trade and the tangible results of her journey, Daphne felt truly, completely herself. The fashion world had gained not just a talented designer, but a passionate advocate for inclusivity and self-expression. And Daphne, once uncertain and conflicted, had found her voice, her purpose, and her true self. As she sketched, a smile played on her lips. This was only the beginning of a beautiful, authentic life, and she couldn't wait to see what designs, both on fabric and in life, the future would bring.
Thanks for watching my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!